Okay, so now Scott from Kalispell, Montana, founder of the Plein Air Painters Chicago. Scott, I'm really glad you're here. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, guys. I appreciate it.
You know, we had a question come in, and they wanted to know about your where your paintings in the, with galleries and how you're doing that. How do you promote yourself, really?
Well, that's a longer conversation for sure, but I can give you some, little cliff notes on it. But, I sell my work through mainly through a gallery down in Tucson called Settlers West. And then I'm in group shows around the country, like the Prix de West, and there's other group shows at the gallery as well. So, and so I was in other group shows in LA that I got out of, and one in Indianapolis that I got out of because I just needed more time to work, because with all the deadlines that I have with these shows, I don't have a life, whenever you have all those shows that you're working for. So, and I wanted to get better at my work. So I mainly sell through those shows and also through the gallery.
So Scott, one of the things that I heard you say the other day, Scott and I had a conversation preparing for this, and you said one of the things that this sheltering has done for you is that you've realized that you would go back and you would start improving the paintings that are already highly improved, done. And I that was actually pretty motivating and inspiring to me, that even, you see that there's more that can be done. Can you just talk about when you look at your own paintings and you review your own paintings and how you do that?
Well, a lot of times I'll, as all of us do, we'll, turn them to the wall sometimes where we don't look at them for about a week, and then you turn it back around, you get a fresh eye, and then you'll turn it upside down along the wall and just keep walking by it every day until you might see a few things, and I might instinctually I might have some ideas for to improve the painting with glazes or strengthening edges or adding a person or an animal in there to kind of tell the story a little better. And so there's things I can do with that. And so it just kind of evolves, and then I'll make notes and then try to improve it. So, I think what we're all going through now, just like in the recession in 2008, a lot of us artists at the Palette and Chisel, we just wanted to get better, and just kind of put our heads down and trained and practiced and practiced and practiced and tried to get as best as we can. Mm-hmm. So it's difficult, to say the least, so.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Scott, let's go ahead and share your screen. Okay. And we're going to start with one that we missed last week. If anybody, with Todd Brandles, Bradle, I guess. Sorry, Todd. And also, it's above there. It's
right there.
Yep. So we'll start with Scott. Or we'll start with Todd's. Yep.
Yeah, this is a nice piece, Todd.
And
thank
so you probably just want to keep on going through without too much chat with people, because we have so many.
I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try to get through as many as I can.
Yeah.
But also, what Mary mentioned to you before is that drawing's going to be our focus here. But there's always going to be something to talk about with your drawing. But then there's other aspects of things I'm going to mention as well, as far as composition and things like that. So just to kind of keep that in mind. But I know the photograph is a little bit skewed. So so there might be some things that I'm seeing in the photograph that might not be exactly what I'm seeing in real life. So take that with a grain of salt. But I like your composition in here. And I was just, what really helps me a lot with doing city scenes is putting your eye level in, like immediately. And Todd, I'm not sure if you did that or not, but your perspective looks pretty good, but I think the eye level just may be a little high, like up in here. You see what I mean?
Yeah, a bit high. Yep.
Yeah, and if it was in a place where there's a lot of hills and things like that, then there's other things that would appear that it was going up the hill. But what I would probably do with this one is, you see how this shadow that's coming around here around her head, I'd probably take that out and just kind of like fade it in a little bit more and take this out, because then she becomes a little bit stronger with those light values around her. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see that. Yep.
But you have a nice, balance of temperatures, and I really like it. And you could even just group.
Great.
Yeah, you can just group this shadow in here a little bit more. It's kind of like, the shadow that you see in your photograph. You can design that shadow and still make it look believable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just design that shadow a little better, and even bring it up into here a little bit more. And just
I've been working on that, and I've been working on putting human figure in the paintings.
Right. Yeah, it's a nice job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, good job, Todd.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, here's the photograph of it too.
So, Todd, or sorry, Scott.
Yeah.
So before could you go back to Todd's?
Yeah.
Just for a second. And I just want to point out something. I just had a conversation with Nancy Mertz, and she was talking about putting in our paintings that as they come in for this and for like her program. And Todd, I'm sorry, I'm not calling you out, but more to say, when you send these in, that you want to edit these before you send them in to get the whole painting in. And I'm guilty of this as well. But just tighten it down so that we get the edges, because it's easier for the critiquer to see the paintings without the extraneous, like the wood table or whatever that's on at that point, or the floor. But just something to think about.
Well, also on a lot of our screens, we have that grid you can turn on the photographs, and so you can square up your photographs or square up your paintings in the frame of the phone, and that way you won't have the skewed, and because then I could more accurately judge the drawing in it. But if that makes sense, but it's an easy thing to do.
Great, thank you.
Good job, Todd. Okay, now down to the watercolor, right? And then we go this way.
That's correct. So that first one right there, and then okay. Yeah, and you'll just have to keep moving. And I don't think people are expecting to talk with you too much, Todd.
Okay, I'll do my best. I'll try to keep moving. Okay, Nancy? Nancy? Yeah, she did a good job with this. Can she hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, thanks. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
nice
here
job.
from Portland, Oregon.
In Oregon, really? Wow.
Yeah, I used to live there in the Lincoln Park area.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
my daughter lives there now, so this is her bike path. And
nice. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I'm gonna just stop this.
Watercolors and what?
Mixed media, pen and ink, watercolor pencil, gouache.
Yeah,
I have a table full of stuff right here that I just pull as I go. When I'm sketching, I just use mixed media. I can't do oils in this setting. I'm a plein air painter.
Yeah, I get it.
So this was a good exercise. I'm really not. When I do cityscapes, I tend to do abstraction. So.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to keep everybody muted because we are just not going to be able to get through this.
Okay. So Nancy, whenever you're putting your buildings in, just try to. That's why I like to keep a T-square in my pack, a small T-square, and just to kind of just get the initial alignment up to where it's like a plumb line down to where you can relate all the other things to it, and right in here with your initial wash, you could put because it looks like in a bright sunny day, you could put like an initial a yellowish type warm wash over the top of on the paper in the initial stage, and then start building up on it. And but right in here, I would just really pay close attention to your drawing in the initial stages when you start drawing everything out, and draw it out with straight lines. Try to get the larger shapes established first, and then start breaking it all down. And you see how this alignment of this top of this tree starts to hit that alignment right here, and it kind of lines up with a tangent. You want to break that line a little bit, give it a little bit more depth, and bring some more interesting shapes to the contour of a tree like this. And I would probably just group that whole bottom part into more of a larger shadow pattern, even bring it over in here and even connect it with here a little bit even. And then that would bring the viewer's eye back into here a little bit better. This is a little bit spotty. Does that make sense? Yeah. But, and probably with these things, I would just think larger shapes. That's what I would do with your work. Just think larger masses in your block ends, initial washes, and I think that would really help. All right, Nancy, I got to keep moving.
Yeah, you do. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much. Okay. Is Kuhn?
Kuhn.
Kuhn? Yeah, this is a nice little piece. I like the composition in this. And it's got good drawing in here. I love this little tree. From Ethiopia too. Wow, that's a place I've always wanted to go. What I would, when I initially looked at it, the strength in the greens are a little too consistent from the background to the foreground. You know, like this area and this area here and this area here. The chroma is, the chroma is pretty similar with the strength of the color. So I would start reducing the intensity of the color as you start to recede. But I do like that he grouped these things in larger shapes in here, and it showed like little rice patties or whatever those things are up in there. But this is a nice little painting, I think. Mm-hmm. And then with drawing with animals, I would recommend, like what I mentioned last week, those little dividers that you can use to measure on your photograph or whatever you're using, as long as the photograph's not distorted. And I use an anatomy book from horses and things too, to make sure I get relative proportions no matter what size I'm drawing the animal. So that would really help. And because you want people to not notice any drawing errors. But nice job. I'd probably just kind of simplify this whole area over here, because this kind of like takes you off. You want everyone to keep coming back in. But that's pretty much about it. Good job, Kuhn.
Thanks.
Okay. Susan, I think there was a photograph of this one.
I'm here.
Photograph of the scene. Yeah, that's a beautiful scene. I like this. Okay, so looking at this little scene right here, this little area right here would be a great center of interest. And you could really push that a lot more. You know, with the, you can make this a larger shape behind it, you know, even ignore all this and bring that violet up into here a little bit more. So, and make this brighter, which would make that, you know, a definite center of interest, where you can keep the tonalities in here, but you still have room to move up in value. And this would be great right in here. It's just this colors right in here are probably a little bit, I'd probably add a little bit more of your violet to those colors to push them back. But you see what I'm talking about with like isolating this area a little bit more so it doesn't compete with these little shapes.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and that would really pop this area right in here. And even bringing this alignment, because this alignment comes right down to the side of the canvas, and in alignment with that, it kind of takes your eye right off the canvas. So kind of bring that back up again, you know, because a lot of times, you know, you can adjust the scene to make your painting work. We don't have to be just paint exactly what's there. But good job on this one. I like the color in here in the foreground too. It kind of leads you right in. You could even put some of this right down in here a little bit more, like you have here, kind of angle back up into this little spot. Looks like you may have been thinking that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good job. Good job, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, this is this painting here. Shannon.
Hey
Are those lilacs? What kind of flower is that?
I think they're bluebells.
Bluebells. Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool scene in here. and I like the way it's balanced. Okay, and okay, so with trees, whenever I'm drawing or painting trees into a scene, I have to really slow down because painting trees is like painting a person, and so they have so much anatomy to them, and so and I mess them up all the time, and so I'm trying to get better at drawing trees myself, and but there's a guy, I think he's in Australia, John McCartan, I think his name is. He does these beautiful trees. I just love his work. But right in here, you see the anatomy up in here, this tree right there. I would really play up the anatomy in here. So and also not getting too thick with your paint too quickly, so you can actually get into some more deliberate drawing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, because whenever I get too thick too quick, it's hard for me to go back in and kind of correct my drawing or enhance it. And so once I get that strengthened, it would help. But right in the background, also, I would probably just simplify my shapes a little bit more, and like probably just make that whole area right in there a lighter value, just like this. Bring this over. Even if it was broken up, I would make it a larger, lighter shape to bring the eye in there. And even like putting like a little area right here, like the sun is breaking through, right? This, and it might, with the shapes, it will lead your eye right back into this little area right here. And so as it's coming in, really focus in this area as your center of interest. Okay, and so you can leave some of these larger shapes around here, but just put more smaller shapes right in this area. And bring in some temperature. It's hard to see in the photograph, but that sky has some little, is that little green is in there here?
There's a little green and a little like pink and purple up towards the top.
Okay. Yeah, I can envision that. But yeah, I mean, and also in these greens, I would put like just impressionistically kind of bounce some greens in these shadows a little bit at a similar value, and then bring some of that violet and gray it out a little bit more, but kind of pop it in here a little bit, just little small strokes to kind of unify the harmony. It's a nice little harmony though.
Do you think I should go brighter and lighter in the foreground? It's darker than the
yeah,
but I kind of wanted the focus in back, but maybe I went too dark.
It might be, yeah, I would say so. Just looking at this photograph right here. And it's definitely not going to be as dark as this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was assuming that this was lighter in person. But yeah, bring some of those, that color and that value in there and sprinkle it around in here. And don't make it, just keep it larger shapes, but don't break it up too much. But I think that would help. And then as your tree gets up higher, it's going to be a little lighter up in this area in here, as opposed to right down in here, and probably just a touch cooler in relationship to down here. So, but good job on it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
23 by 115.
What's that?
23 paintings by 115.
Okay. All right. We'll do our best. Okay, Muriel. This is a nice little scene. And she says it's over in Italy or something, I think. But okay, so this is this right here is going uphill, and she's already mentioned that a lot of is a hilly area, and so her vanishing point, her line's going right down to her vanishing point down here, and this one's going up to a vanishing point right above that vanishing point to create the feeling of it going uphill. But I like the way your placement is of the figure. And what I would probably do immediately when I looked at it is probably change this line direction that's right there. I would probably even kind of put it like maybe even like a value and a temperature like it's a tree over there, but just make it an abstract shape and kind of bring it down in here. And that would help with kind of bouncing a little bit of your greens around. and just making it look like that is extending, but you're softening that edge, which is good. And but I like the way this thing looks. It looks great. And I would probably just spend a little bit more time on her, like right underneath her dress right there on the back side of her leg. Put a value like that right behind her, and just kind of be a little bit more descriptive with her figure. And that would really tighten up your center of interest right there. But I like all this stuff in here, all this texture. That's really good, Muriel.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice job. Okay. Okay, Elizabeth. Yeah, this is right at Buckingham Fountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a nice job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is looking down. Okay, so I'm looking at your horizon line right in here. And this might be a little bit more coming up this direction, but it's not that far off. But right in here, I probably just kind of group my, I feel like I'm going to be saying this a lot because I try to do this all the time, where I try to group my shapes in larger masses. And so painting that all as one mass and then breaking it up would really help, and softening up some of these edges in here as well, especially as it meets this, to keep this going farther back, because whenever we get the edges too hard in the distance, they come forward too much, and in that way it'll cause a problem with the depth. So keep all those edges softer. So kind of a wet and wet application in the initial stages, and then with your preceding layers, just tighten up in just a few areas. But and then I know painting those trees that don't have any foliage on them is tough, but you can amp up that gray violet that they have just a little bit more in some of these areas in here. It would help the recession also. Does that make sense,
Yes,
Elizabeth?
yes, thank you.
Okay, well, good job.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Okay, there's the photograph. Okay, there's that one. All right. Okay, Ray. Is Ray here?
Oh.
Okay, I love all this texture in here. Hey, that's that tree again. That tree with I forgot her name, the watercolor with the, yeah.
There's going to be a whole series of us who did Earl's virtual paint out, all from the same photo.
Oh, cool. Oh, I see. I see. Okay. But being what I said before about that tree with the other painting, I would just probably design the tree a little bit better, so it's not so much of a slope right down into here. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I totally see that. I think I actually went back and did that after I submitted this.
Okay. Yeah. That would really help. And whenever all this texture is in here, I probably just I'd take a palette knife and kind of not scrape it off, but kind of knock it down a little bit. I like this big shape up in here. That's good because it keeps your eye down in here. But down here, I would probably make it more of a larger shape in the shadow area, and then have some of the lights kind of break. And that's not too shabby right in here, but just make it a little bit larger shape and change up that contour. And then even soften up those edges back in there on some of those buildings back behind this tree would make it head back quite a bit. And even with this value here, you could really lighten it up like one value and just keep it farther back. You know, because you turn this thing into black and white, these values right in here might be competing with too many values that are in the foreground. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. But nice. I like the expressiveness of it.
Thank you.
All right, Ray. Thanks. Okay. All right, Deborah. This is a cool little high key painting where you have all your values at a very, high level on the value scale. That's hard to control, but you did a great job at this. And you have some drawing challenges that I run into all the time. Whenever you have like an octagon or something like that of a building just changes direction, but it doesn't go in a 90 degree direction, and which has a lot of challenges. So I would go back and double check this, the drawing on this in the photo on this side. And a lot of times I'll put, just to double check things, you can put on a board your photograph and tape it to a board, and then find out where your horizon line is, and find out where your approximate vanishing points are just by putting a ruler on, and just kind of get an eyeball. I know it's going to be distorted in the photograph, but you can get an eyeball where your vanishing points are, and try to double check things. And but also just to talk about photography for a second. Whenever we're shooting our reference material, especially with buildings and people, we got to be cautious that we're not too close to the subject. Because if we're too close to the subject, there's going to be massive distortions, and sometimes you won't be able to notice. But aside from all that, but I like the way you're positioning of this little area right here. It might be nice to actually have even like a cat or something sitting on the windowsill, or someone coming out the door. It would really tie in the story of this place. And even like a little cloud that's kind of breaking the plane up in here. That might help with the composition. But good job. I hope that all makes sense to you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Nice job. Okay. Hey, Nancy. Nancy here. This is a nice little piece. Okay. So so what I would do here is a lot of times whenever I'm drawing figures, I'll run like a plumb line like this. Like if I would get my figures placed on the canvas or on the paper, I'll run a plumb line that's vertical down, say like the front side of her shoulder, or like the back side of her butt right there, and just measure horizontally off those plumb lines, even to get to where this little boy is, wherever you're going to be placing them. But the plumb lines are really critical for me to get my drawing accurate. And she looks pretty good. This leg may be a little bit long, but it may be an illusion with her skirt and stuff. But this guy looks like he's in pretty good proportion. And with this one, I might even just bring a shadow right over in here. It doesn't matter where it came from, but it might enhance the light on her back side right there on her back, and it make her more of the center of interest right in here, and it lead right down to the little boy. And just thinking about it abstractly from the whole painting, that might be helpful. That little dark area that's right behind her. But good job, Nancy. Okay. All right. Where was this, Sandra?
It's the boathouse in Humboldt Park, right there.
God, yeah.
I think I stated that, unless it didn't. Oh, it didn't take what I said. I'm so sorry. Okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've painted that little area so many times. I forgot how huge that place is.
Yeah. That's not it. It was the other reference.
Okay.
I must have put.
Okay.
I screwed up. What can I say?
Because I didn't remember that. I was like, wow, that place is bigger than I remembered.
Right.
But anyway, but yeah, this is really nice. That's a lot of drawing in there.
Okay, well, that was a revisited. We did that, was it 2 weeks ago, Mary? And then I commented, and then I went back and I revisited it. So
yeah, I did a good job on this.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of work in here. Yeah, and just like with these trees I've been talking about, I would just kind of group these limbs, kind of group the limbs a little bit closer together, whenever the little twigs get on the ends of the limbs, to create more of a larger shape. and then overlap. If you overlapped these things, you don't have to do it now, but in the future, in another painting,
Right.
if you overlapped your limbs of the building and give it a little bit more depth, you know. So and then even with the birds right over here, you could put them right over here and kind of angle them the opposite direction, because it kind of feels like there's a lot of things kind of going this direction. And kind of you needed something to pull you back into the painting a little bit. And just watch your chroma. Just watch your chroma and like in the roof compared to the trees and things like that. And just because this is going to be reflecting a lot of what's going on in the sky. And I don't remember what the roof looks like. If it's that kind of, it's that
kind of greenish and grayish. Yes.
Yeah, green, gray. So I would tone that down quite a bit. You could put a wash over that and just.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Yeah, but nice job.
Thank you.
Okay, Marcy. All right.
Hi there.
Hi, Marcy.
Hi.
There's a reference photo for that one.
There's a reference photo? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so you see this little area right here? Like
Yes.
whenever I'm going out to paint a scene, I try to ask myself how I can simplify what I'm looking at. And so with here, things are a little bit too broken up, even with like little sky holes and with all the little plots of the leaves and things. And so it's easy to kind of get, scrambled up with that. And so I would probably just kind of keep it in that range right in there, and put it in as a larger shape first. Wait, oops. As a larger shape first, and then just break it up a little bit more. But you have to decide on what's your center of interest, because you have one that's right here and you have another one that's right here. It might be good just to kind of put this guy back in there and probably take out a few of those. And so those were ducks and this was a heron?
That's, heron in front, and those are spoonbills in the back.
Okay, yeah, I don't think they hang together, but
No.
I'm just thinking as far as
Usually there's pelicans, there's all kinds of them there. Now, first I had that tree blocked in solid, and then I broke it up because I didn't like it as solid as to have two solid ones on either side of this.
Right. And you could pull that over a little bit so it's not so much like it's has the same feeling. But you can make this a little bit larger and pull it back into your scene a little bit more, and it would kind of like swoop back in. But it almost like needs a vertical right in here, back to kind of stop the eye, because it kind of goes right over that heron and comes right out here. And so it's just either take him out or make these birds back here a little bit more interesting, and put something right back in here. But it's got a good feeling to it. And these the clouds. These types of clouds are really great for direction, like with directing the eye in the painting. So you could have them to where it's kind of wispy, but kind of coming right down into this area, and putting like one up right up in here. But this one, just with this big one, this large space in here, it needs to have some shapes to help with your line in your work, to bring it back down into the center of interest. Does that, you see what I mean?
Yes, I was out there and they were changing rapidly. And,
yeah, I know.
I've got too much, don't I have too much white in there? It seems like I need to add more colors and make them more interesting.
I would think so. Yeah, it's a little bit too much white in these colors here, in these shadows, and so it makes things look a little chalky at times whenever we put too much white in our mixtures.
Yeah.
Just keep it stronger in the beginning. You can always cool it off and neutral it, tone it down, adding white, and then balance it out a little bit more color.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Marcy. Okay, Jean. This. Oh wait, where did that other one go? Oh shit. Wait, crap. This one right here. That's a nice little still life. And wasn't there another one? Is this the revised one or?
Revised.
Okay. Yeah, this is a nice little piece. What's that?
The nocturne.
Okay. This is a nice little piece. I like this. What my eye goes to immediately whenever I look at it, it comes to the windowsill that's right there. And it's almost like I don't know, I want this to be either like toned down a little bit or kind of drop it a touch to where it doesn't get too close to the top of that, just a little bit. And also watch your perspective too as it comes into the reflection. That this little area just, it makes me wonder what's going on right in that area. And simplifying your background with these types of scenes like this would really help. With all these different smaller shapes in here, you have all these small shapes in here. It doesn't even need to be that broken up. Just the shapes would be great. That would support what's going on in the foreground. And even bringing a little bit of color into your drapes right in here might enhance that a little bit more, even as it gets over on this side, just a little cooler. But this is a nice little piece. I like the brushwork in here. I like all that. Yeah, I'd say just simplify your background and just kind of, figure out that little area right in here. Right, definitely drop it down a touch. And just be able to see the top side of it just a little bit. So a good drawing in your little horse there. I like that. Yeah, good job, Gene. Okay. And I like this scene already. I miss those. Richard? Very cool shape arrangement. Yeah, I like that. And social distancing for sure. Okay, let me just go back here. Okay, see all these, you got a lot of things in here that you want to actually simplify, and you're simplifying them in your shapes in here. I like this. I'd probably cool off the temperature, the color temperature back in here in the shadow area, like you have it like in here. I know that there's a lot of warmth back up in there too, but I would just neutralize it and keep it cooler than what's going on out here, because this feels a lot warmer than what the scene is. But it's okay to push your color. But I would probably just put just a little bit more smaller shapes in the figure, especially up there towards his head a little bit more, and delineate a little bit where his arms are in the shirt and the folds. Just, it wouldn't take much, just to make it just a little bit more detailed right in this area, and work out some of the drawing at the base of this thing here. I think that would really help also. But it's almost kind of an abstract, cool abstract piece. I like it. Good job, Richard. Okay. All right, Barbara.
There's a reference for it.
Reference photo. Okay. So this is a very difficult reference photo to paint from. You handled this nicely in here, but you had your hands full with this arrangement.
I know.
That's pretty challenging, wasn't it?
It was. I really wanted to focus on the workers and attach and make that shape above them, dominant, and then just try to abstract the background. But it was challenging, yes.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now, thinking how I would paint it. And I'd be like, whoa, man, this is very challenging. So, but like right in here, you can see how dark that is up there.
Yes. I
would probably, make that a lot darker. And I know there's some glare on there, and it may be darker in person.
No, you're right. And when I stopped, I knew right away you were going to go there.
Oh, really?
Darker,
Yeah.
yes. I knew.
And fix it.
Yeah.
But I didn't fix it, so I can fix it now.
Yeah, you can darken that up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and probably, how it's coming down at a sharp angle like that.
Yeah.
Soften that angle a little bit more, like that is.
Mm-hmm.
Soften it so it doesn't look like it's so extreme coming down.
Okay.
And then let's see, wait. Okay. And what you could also do, being that how you handle the background, no one's going to be looking at your reference photo. So you could make this appear like it's being attached to a building that's right there, and just have that kind of fade into like a shadow as it comes down, and that way it would keep your attention more over here. And also watch the perspective. See those?
Yeah.
Those windows right over there. It's all going back. It's all going back to a vanishing point way the heck over there. But probably it looks like about right there at the top of their heads. Looks like where the vanishing point, I mean the horizon line is. And so it's going to be going to a vantage point way the heck over there. So you just got to straighten those things out just a little bit, so they look like they're going back to the correct vanishing point. And then when you're going back into these figures, I would go back and redraw. So a lot of times I will go back into a painting and redraw with the color that is right in, that I'm working with.
Yeah.
And kind of reestablished with straight lines. And I don't have to obliterate what I just painted, but I can go back and correct my drawing and make it stronger, and then go back and build on that. But I a lot of times in all of my paintings, I have to go back and redraw my figures over and over and over again. But I get I put less work into it as I go. So I'm just constantly correcting things.
Okay.
So nice job, Barbara.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Anne. This is a nice little piece. Yeah, this is I like this large.
Hi, I'm here.
Yeah, nice job, Anne. I like this large dark shape you have in the foreground here. It really brings the eye back up in here. And just like with that tree that I was mentioning before, yeah, just making it a little bit more interesting, and actually you can make it larger too. Even if it was that height, I would probably make it larger to kind of block out that building and just bring it up to make it a little bit more interesting, and bring some of these lighter values underneath, right underneath that shadow, but not make it where it's too strong, where it's going to take attention away. But also see the chroma of the color, the green in the background. I would probably neutralize that quite a bit and cool it off to where it doesn't compete with some of the intensity of the color towards the middle ground and foreground. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. And then also with with these buildings, I like to group these things all as like one shape and then break them up, and try to keep relating all of my my values and temperatures to what's going on in the foreground, to make sure I keep those things way far in the back. And you can cool these off quite a bit, and especially the Hancock to where it's not so warm.
Okay.
Even if the light was hitting it, kind of, if we stare at something long enough, our minds will trick us into what color and value things are. So we got to make, sometimes I split my vision where I'm looking at something. You know how you look at it from your peripheral? Like say you look right in this area, but you're really looking over here. A lot of times you can see things a little bit more accurate that way whenever you split your observations like that.
Okay.
And same thing in here in the foreground. But cooling off these shadows a little bit more with a little bit more violet of relative value, I think might help make this appear a lot warmer also in relationship.
Okay.
So
great.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Okay, Errol. Good job on this.
I'm here.
You
Thanks.
there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks.
Yeah. I think I know where that is.
It's Armitage Avenue under the
Okay. Now, whenever you photographed this painting, Errol, did you square it up in the frame? In the frame of the photo? Was it with the squared on the sides and the bottom when you photographed it?
I think I did.
Okay. I'm asking you that because the bottom, it feels like it might be skewed a little bit.
But it looks like it's leaning a little bit down to the right, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's leaning down to the right. So if you took a straight like a T-square and put it on the edge of your canvas and kind of like line it up on the bottom of those cars.
Right.
And granted, I mean, it may not be perfectly straight, but it's going to be a little bit straighter than what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's one of the only things right in here is that my eye caught right away.
Mm-hmm.
And just double check these alignments also with these poles.
Okay.
And not saying that we just run that T-square from like your horizon line up a little bit and then down a little bit and just kind of check the alignments.
Right.
And
it looked to me like it was leaning a little bit from the car. You see the car on the left coming
right.
towards it.
It's like maybe
white car, little white car
down a little bit
on the left. Oh, yeah, right there.
Right there.
It seems like the painting is leaning down a little bit, going towards like the car on the right.
Right.
Seems like I'm tilted a little bit.
Yeah, just a little tilted a little bit. And if you just kind of fix that feeling of tilt, I think it'd be great. It's a great little painting.
Yeah.
And I really like it.
And what do you think? One thing I struggled with was the shadows under the car on the right side.
The side?
Yeah, the shadows under the car. Do you think I should have obliterated them a little bit more? Or does it look like it's sitting, I guess is what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it looks fine right in here.
Okay, all right.
From what I can tell, it looks good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can bring that shadow up into that car a little bit more. Because from this angle, it's gonna have to come over up in here.
Okay.
A little bit more.
Okay.
And
all right,
yeah, but good job.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Deanna. Is it Deanna?
It's Dina. Hi.
Dina. Okay. Nice job with this one.
Thank you.
Reference photo.
Oh, is there a reference photo? Oh yeah, that's nice. That's a good reference photo. Wow. Yeah. Wish we were there right now.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yes. Okay, so look at the reference photo. You see how there's a harmony in here. You know, and so it gets into everything, especially when the sun's going down. All that warmth, that warm orange glow kind of gets into all your colors. And so it's a tough balance, I know, like when you're working with blues and also with oranges, so it doesn't get too muddy. So it's a delicate balance, but just adding a little bit more warmth into the lights of your water here, and then adding a lot more warmth to your sky. So if you isolated this little area right in here, it's gonna be a lot different than blue. You know what I mean? It'll be more of a grayer, warmer kind of bluish violet even, and that might even be like like a warm violet, kind of a red violet even. And you can strengthen that towards to put more red right in here.
No, he liked mine a lot.
Yeah.
What's that?
That was somebody else, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so and right in here, yeah, this is like built in. I mean, you could really just adjust it just a little bit, and it's a nice reference photo. So even grouping these shadows up here, these clouds up in here into a larger shape, and it'll pull your eye back down in here a lot more. And I think it's just kind of like balancing your temperatures out a little bit.
Okay.
You know, but it's a nice little piece though, and just watch that these don't get too blue.
Okay.
Because they're still going to have a lot of that ambient color everywhere. You know, it's just relative in relationships to the light, to the shadow. But good job on that.
Thank you.
And also just whenever, I've painted these sunsets and sunrises a lot over the years. And what I do is I would paint on a more toned canvas to where, probably toned into something like that.
Okay, right.
Or even a bit darker. And that way, whenever I get my drawing done, I'll pop in the sun right there immediately. That's probably one of my first strokes I'll put in, so I can key the rest of my decisions based on the brightness of that sun going down. You see what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I started on a white canvas, so that, yeah, would help, I'm sure, just to.
It definitely does help. It helped me a number of times, and then I could get more of an accurate representation of how everything would be a lot lower in value and in relationship to the sun. So, but good job.
Thank you.
All right, there's another cool scene. I love trees. Okay, let's see. Yeah, nice. Deborah? Is Deborah here?
Yeah, yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I like this one. I like that. That's a good choice. And with when we have something that's so complex in the foreground, a subject like this, and it has so many like smaller changes in the form and unique drawing, that's whenever I would simplify the background big time to really play up on all this, because you got a lot of great things happening in here, and just you know, you just paint it all as one mass back in the back, and then pop a few different trees in the foreground, and that whole mass will kind of look like a grouping of trees in relationship to some of these other ones in the foreground, and that way they'll stay subordinate to this, you know, awesome tree. And but I like what you have going on in here, and I like all the drawing that you have, because that's like, I mean, there's so much to do right in here. I would go bananas with this stuff, and playing up all this moss that's right in here. Yeah, you can really even put some right on top of this tree, on top of this root right in here.
Right.
You kind of lead it back, and let's see. You see how that comes around? And just for compositional sake, you could bring that moss down a little bit more, you know, down over in here, and let it break the plane.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of balance it out. But nice job on this. I like it. Yeah, and I just watched that your drawing is right as these limbs change direction, and they sprout off of the main trunk. Just watch that it doesn't start to like, just delineate that directional change and how it attaches to the main trunk of the tree. And these
too many curves. Is that too curvy, or
a little bit too curvy?
Yeah.
Right here. This is something I try to pay close attention to for myself, the anatomy of the tree and how it overlaps, and this other one might be behind it, and really pay close attention to these areas. It's like, reminds me of like ankles and wrists on a person. There's a lot of anatomy in the wrist and the ankle, and there's like, as the line kind of comes over, you want to feel like it's three-dimensional, like it's going behind it. So even kind of accentuating your drawing right in here to explain to the viewer how the anatomy is in the tree will help.
All right.
Yeah. A good job on this.
Thank you.
Nice.
Can I just add, thank you, Deborah, for putting all of our images into albums. Deborah's been doing that every week for us, so thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you. That's an undertaking.
It is. And there's a reference photo for this next one.
Okay, Anne? Is Anne here? Oh yeah, okay. I see. Okay, so see here, when you have a lot of verticals in here with a lot of the shadows, and in your reference photo, oops, you have these three trees right in here, which is a good little anchor to the scene. And see, if you like squint your eyes, you can, it just kind of like, it kind of softens a little bit more so than what it's too delineated in your shape. So making larger shapes in the background would help the foreground a lot more, because that's where all your center of interest is. And was this in your backyard or something?
Side yard.
Side yard. Okay. Whenever you're setting something like this up, and you see all these alignments coming in with the shadows, I would set the little wagon up at an angle like this. That direction to where it crosses up it goes the opposite direction of what the shadow alignment is. It kind of makes it a little bit more interesting of a center of interest right here, rather than alignment with all the shadows. You see what I mean?
Right.
And so if it's going this direction, then you can kind of lead into the scene a little bit more.
I see.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And then whenever we're painting like any kind of red objects like this, whenever it's surrounded by so much green around, the green is getting into everything in a scene like this. And so it's going to be in this tree color, it's going to be in the ground color, even though it's relatively warm and kind of a burnt sienna-ish, but there's still green in there because it's bouncing around all over the place. So there's going to be green added to your red also, and to make it harmonize with your with the rest of the area in there. So if you add a little bit of green to this, it'll still appear red, but it will harmonize better with your scene. But I would just make sure that these stay in larger shapes, simplify these shadow patterns, and that would help out tremendously. And if you wanted to, you can go back and change that direction of that wagon, and I think that would help out.
Good points. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Ann. Okay. All right, Alexa.
I'm here.
Is this a gouache painting?
It is, yes.
Yeah, nice job.
Thanks.
Yeah, I like the placement in this. Where is this?
It's Costa Brava, Spain.
Oh, wow, nice.
Here's a reference.
Oh, reference photo? Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful spot. Okay, so I like the way you arrange your shapes here. This area right here grabs my attention a little bit too much. Even though that's like that, you see how it kind of like pops up a little bit right in here? And I would probably soften up some edges right along that line, kind of make one a little bit harder right in there, soften that up a little bit, soften this up, kind of strengthen that, kind of give some more variety to your edge control, and even bring this up a little bit into this area so it doesn't feel like it's sloping down too much. Even if in the photograph, oh, see, it does go up a little bit. I just make that go up there. That way, I'll kind of anchor everything back down again. But I like the feeling of it. You can make these areas a little bit larger shapes as well, and even just moving him just about right in here. It's probably where it's not as much tension between the edge of this. Might be a little bit better, but it doesn't really bother me, him right there either. I'd probably just put a little bit of color into his shirt. Maybe kind of a rusty color even, and that might help. But it's a nice little piece.
Thanks.
But yeah, and it wouldn't hurt just by putting just a little bit of a cloud structure in that background. But really minimal. But good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, good job. Okay, Julie. Yeah, this is a challenging scene too. Wow, holy moly. Yeah, that's a tough one. Okay. So what I would do with this scene, I see how these umbrellas are connected like this. I would really play up that shape. How you could actually have that overlapped. I know you can't go in this now, but if you were to start over and do it again, put that color in really, really strong, and then make this a larger shape in here where that's overlapping a little bit more. And let's see, let's go back to the thing. Okay, I'd probably bring that tree back down over in here, overlapping that, kind of break up that edge of the bridge a little bit.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And okay, and so, and with the people, this would be a tough one to draw from because there's some distortions in here. And what I would probably do if I was going to be using this, I would concentrate on the drawing of the people above their waistline and kind of like obliterate and kind of and make it go down into a larger wash.
Okay.
And to where you're breaking up a lot of the masses. It doesn't have to be so delineated and explained down here. You can just make it all kind of wash into the shadow and kind of disappear, and then just concentrate on the drawing up in their shoulder area. And you've seen those watercolorists. I forget his name, but he's fantastic. Where he'll use a lot of abstract washes in the initial block in, and then he'll start to pick out some areas of detail and anatomy, and it might just be up in their upper torso area, and it will explain your eye will kind of fill in all the gaps. A lot of times you don't have to explain as much as it is like right down in here, especially if it's touching the bottom of the canvas. The person's eye is going to go immediately right down in here.
Okay.
Yeah, so that could all just be gone down into a darker wash. But yeah, this is a really complex scene. But yeah, I give you a lot of credit for tackling this sucker. But good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, just one last thing. You see how that would be like your horizon line? But look at where their heads are. You see how I got up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why it's so good to put like a line across. You're a real light one on your watercolor paper, just to give yourself a reminder of where the horizon line is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Julie, good job. Okay, so this is the reference photo, or that one. Vita?
Hi,
Hi, nice job on this.
thanks. I added some shadows on the right that were not there, so.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Whatever makes it work. You know, no one's going to know what's going off on the other side, as long as it's not changing the direction of the light or something like that. I think it's fine. But yeah, you got your perspective going back and everything, and let's see. Yeah, what I would probably do, you see how the values are so close together here?
Yep.
Yeah, and you know, I'd make that more of like a violet. I know you're trying to put some green in there to kind of make it a little bit more spring-like, but I would probably bring it into a little bit darker shape over in here. Obviously not get too dark like that, and keep it farther back. But and that way, I kind of give it a little bit more weight on this side, because there's a lot of weight right here, and just bring in a lot more weight on this side to help balance this out, and then soften up some of these edges as it kind of recedes back, and especially pay close attention to this little area right in here, because this edge might be a little bit hard. And
okay.
yeah, and then with the drawing, I would go back into this thing and redraw as these planes change on this with the structure here, and to give it a little bit more interest. You can really work out some shapes in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, what do I do whenever there's something just came up with an orange thing? Mary?
I'm sorry, say it again.
There's an orange thing that comes up. What does that mean?
That's somebody sending a message, a chat.
Okay.
So you can ignore it. I watch those for questions.
Okay. As long as someone's seeing them.
Yep.
But and also with your, see how the chroma of the yellow here?
Yep.
I would just neutralize that a little bit more with, let's say, like a little bit of a violet, like some of the violets over here in like similar value, kind of neutralize that a little bit more. And even you can neutralize this red just a touch. You see how this gets a little bit strong? And I know you probably would have even adjusted this if you were going further with it. But just so it stays within the harmony of the scene. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of times I like to put my color in there in the block in, like in this particular situation. I might put it in strong, but I'll keep it in one area and then neutralize it, you know, when it starts to go outside that area a little bit more. And because there's a lot of drawing involved in these things. And so now you have the opportunity to go back in and enhance your drawing, and then just slowly kind of like have it recede and get less detailed as it goes back in the distance. But you could bring this tree up a little bit more up in here too. But there's a lot of different options, especially like, you know, you can have your clouds go in the opposite direction. You know how this is all going like this.
Mm-hmm.
Have them come in the opposite direction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that might help. But good job, Vita.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mary. Yeah, this is a complicated scene right in here. Do you have a reference photo to this?
No.
Okay.
Actually, there is one, but no.
Okay. So with these reflective reflections in water, you know, a lot of times I will block them in and obliterate them with like a rag or whatever, or a palette knife, and then I'll go back in and repaint them again, obliterate it and repaint it again. And because there's sometimes you can get edges by tearing it down and building it back up again that you can't get just by softening things initially, you know, and just leaving it. And because some of these edges that are in the water here are probably a little bit too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would soften them up significantly. And but I have to do it a number of different times to get it to where I like it. I can't just go in and just soften things and leave it. It drives me bonkers. But it gets more of a realistic type feeling that you are looking into a reflection. And with this tree right in here, I like the placement where you have this. I'd probably make this a little bit bigger tree than what it was to kind of give it more weight in this area. And then spend more time in this area separating these shapes and temperatures. And you see how that chroma back in the very far back, it's probably a little bit too strong. And I would pay close attention to this area more than anything. And I would probably pop in a few little warmer tones that you're seeing. So like, you know, whenever we look at these scenes, is this like the Des Plaines River or something?
Yes.
Okay. I know those colors in there pretty well. And so they can be super gray and sometimes void of color. And so you got to take those, that initial color that you're sensing in there and amplify it even more. And you can always neutralize it down, but just make it stronger in the very beginning. And that way you'll keep a strong center of interest in here. And just be cautious also with your shadows on your trees, that they don't get too strong of a violet color.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They're gonna have to gray those out just a little bit. And but it's all gonna be hinging around what you do right in here. And then with the blue that's in there, you're gonna have to gray that blue out a little bit as well to make it feel like it's that color of the Des Plaines River, you know, that kind of muddy color, and still have it reflect the blue sky. But that's a nice job, Mary. I mean, that's a complicated scene to tackle. Just group these these branches down here a little bit more too. That might help. Good job, Mary. Okay, Patricia.
Yes.
Yeah, I like the little pastel piece.
Yes.
Yeah. I like the way it feels. I'd probably just, you know, I'd probably neutralize that blue in the sky just a touch, bring some of that up a little bit, up in there to where it's not so dark, coming in this directional lines, and grouping these into larger shapes on the top over in here, and just trying to make it just like I mentioned before, because I think we've had about 3 or 4 of this similar scene.
Yeah.
And just making a little bit more unique contour right in here. But I liked how you simplified the buildings in the back. I like that.
Thank you.
It gives it a feeling of a big city without having too much detail. And I'd probably just kind of take out some of these groups of people that are right here close to the bottom of this tree, and have that little biker there, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, just have like a little biker there, maybe just a splattering a few people, but have him be the focus right there. And then have that shadow of that tree come over the path there a little bit more. So it's just kind of simplifying this area would really help, I think.
Okay, great.
And maybe bring up that shadow just a little bit more, and make it an interesting shape up in there. Maybe even bring another branch over in here, just to bring a little bit more anatomy to the tree. That might be interesting. And even just opening up this area here where it's not, would make all this light right in here, and maybe bring that value over all the way in this area, and just have just a couple different spots like you have here. That might make it a little bit stronger, larger shapes, bringing the viewer into the painting.
Okay.
That might help. Yeah, and just simplify this little, the water in this area right here, see where they got that stroke of blue? Maybe bring a little bit of the teal color over the top of that with a similar value, and just soften it up a little bit.
All right.
Yeah. And maybe just a touch of, and you could do a lot of different things, even like some clouds that are kind of swooping down this direction, rather than the alignment of your strokes going like this, have them come this direction. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but good job, Patricia.
You don't think the strokes on the upper left counterbalance the curve on the lower right of the street? That's kind of what I was going for.
With this is coming in here like this, I see what you're saying, like with that S.
Yes.
I would probably do it to where it's coming back the opposite direction a little bit more, because your eye goes right up in there,
Okay.
And probably I'd probably utilize some cloud shapes to kind of balance out these shapes that are at the bottom.
Okay.
That's probably what I would do, because whenever it's like blue on blue like this, it's going to be distracting to the viewer, and you're going to want to keep that sky way the heck back there,
Okay.
Yeah. But good job. Okay.
To get through all of them, probably about 3 minutes each.
Okay. Okay. I'll try. Okay, Steve.
Yes.
Yeah, good job, man.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, I like this. I like the thickness of the paint in here. That's got a good feel to it. Where was this one? Palm Springs?
Palm Springs.
Wow. Yeah, only thing that I would do, Steve, is just probably just take this tree up a little higher.
Okay.
Yeah, just kind of break that. It's a little bit too soft of a tangent right there. Bring it up a little bit higher, make the shape of the tree interesting, and because I like all the color. I mean, everything's just really, it's got a good feel to it, and just simplify these reflections in here, and just so it's not so broken up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And is this on a golf course? Oh yeah,
It
18.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could even bring this one, the bottom of that, as it's going down into the pond.
Mm-hmm.
I can even bring it down in here a little bit more, well, as long as it's not lining up with, as it meets the edge of the canvas with that.
Okay.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just kind of slope it back in here a little bit more, so it makes the viewer feel like they're standing on land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then also, in these shapes right here, I would probably just simplify those, and then I myself, I would go right back into this center of interest, and I would be very specific with my drawing and really slow down my observations in this area.
Good.
But this looks nice. I like that. I like how you grayed out, but still kept a lot of color back in the background. And I probably cool off that area a little bit more, like with some of these tones.
Yeah.
And just push it back behind this tree.
That'll make that tree stand out.
Yeah, yeah. I'd really make this tree be really, really important.
Okay.
Just even more important than it already is, because you did a good job at, putting that in the center of interest. It's a good composition, but I would just make it even more interesting, especially with the contour of the shape. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, good job, man. Okay. I don't know if that was 3 minutes, but okay. Sharon?
Hi.
Hi. I love all the color in here. That teal color is one of my favorites.
Thanks.
Yeah. And this one is like, this one's going to be, for me, when I look at it, simplification would be really, really important. And with all the shapes that are broken up like they are here, if you just left a lot of this detail that you have in here and just simplify some of the shadow side of this, is there a photo reference in here or no?
No, I didn't know we were supposed to put one. I did paint that plein air though in my backyard.
That's okay. But you see what I'm saying? As far as like just kind of grouping like a shadow shape back underneath here. And you could just even bring this over a little bit more too, but just a little bit larger shapes to help balance with all the detail that you have in here.
Okay.
And also, if you wanted to put something on that table, just about right in that little area, that might be interesting, even if it's a coffee cup. Little things like that can take a painting into a different place in someone's mind. So just putting a little element that shows there was a human there at one point.
Yeah, I was even thinking of putting a watering can on there, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, either one, watering can, mug, or whatever. It would just bring a little bit more interest to this area, because I like the way you did this. This is a nice little table there. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, simplification is the biggest thing. And but that would help support all your great detail that you have in there. You see what I mean?
So some darker shadow shapes that are larger on the right side of the bush.
Yeah, you can even put some transparency, like that transparency. What do you call it? It's like clear film that you can put it over the top of a dry painting.
Mm-hmm.
You can paint over the top of your painting and see, design out a shadow pattern and paint it on top of the like the transparency stuff. I forgot what you call it.
Acetate.
Acetate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you put the acetate over it and paint over the top of that, and that way you can see how it's going to look. And a lot of times I do that, and then I'll take a photograph of that with my iPhone, and then I'll go back and look at it to see what the shapes, how I drew the shapes on there. Because once you take it off, obviously, and you start working on it, it's harder. But that's, you don't have to do anything to the painting, but you can make an adjustment to see how it looks.
Okay.
So, a nice little piece.
Thank you.
All right, Sharon. Okay, this is the photo reference to this one here. John and Mary, was it?
John Hines.
John's? Okay. Good job, John. I like the perspective in this. Okay. So with this piece, the way the tree is right here, I like it in relationship to these buildings. Have it closer in. Sorry. And so, because I know why you put that tree over there, just to balance out all the weight right there. Is John here? He might not be here. But okay, so whenever you're blocking in these buildings, I separate them into large shapes, and I block them in as a large mass and break them up. And wait, okay. So I would block in this whole thing right here and just kind of separate it, but I won't go bananas until later on, but just kind of separate them into larger shapes like you have here and block it all in. Block that whole thing in and then separate it. And that way you'll have more of a unity of your masses. And but right here, there's a lot of, even though this helps with the weight, this feels like this should be a lot bigger over on this side if you're going to keep it there. And because in this format, you definitely need to have some weight over here to balance out all this. But what I definitely do is I neutralize your reds. Your reds are probably going to be a little bit too strong in here, as well as your yellow, and neutralize these a little bit to where they stay within the harmony of the scene that you have here established. And I like your little dudes you got down there. It might be better to have them even like, I know it's tougher whenever it's closer up, or just have them a little bit closer in this area. But there's a number of different things you can do with it. But I would definitely neutralize the chroma in this color and soften some of the edges as well. And then group these larger branches and all those twigs, group them into a larger mass. This may have been drawn on top of wet paint that was too wet. So it starts to make the color look a little chalky. So if I was going to go back into this and redraw this tree, I would have to scrape off a lot of the wet paint and then go back in to redraw it. And then I think that would help out a lot. So I'm not sure if any of this makes sense to you guys. You see what I mean?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
All right, good job, John. Okay, that's a nice scene of these fishing boats. I love those things. Oops. Yeah, nice job. Nice job. I know how hard those things are. I've painted those a number of times. This is Cindy?
Yes.
Yeah, good job on these things.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so I painted these a number of times up in Alaska whenever I was camped up there. And so I know how much chaos is going on with all the riggings and all these drop down things. I forget what they call them. Yes. But yeah, trying to make order out of chaos is challenging, to say the least. And did you paint this from a photograph, or were you out there?
Photo I took, yes.
Okay. And so what I would do right in here is, you see how all that rigging is right around in here? I would start painting that as shapes, blending a lot of these things together, like blending all that stuff together in shapes, and then taking out pulling out the rigging that are more towards the foreground to separate those shapes, but not too much. Make sure all these things that you have in the foreground are like this one. I would probably just focus on making this really specific with my drawing, and then kind of make this less specific, less specific, less specific. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And just really concentrate on this one. And I can see how the light was not super strong, but you could really play up on that value on that front boat and just knock these down a little bit. And then this would be a strong center of interest. But yeah, I wish I had an example to show you one of the ones I did that it really kicked my butt with all that rigging and stuff. So I can empathize. But also when you have so much complex stuff in the subjects that you're painting, be cautious that you're like the sky doesn't get too complicated with like broken up shapes with clouds. I would probably simplify the sky also, and it would really help out a lot what's going on down here. So you just don't want to break this up too much when you have all these complex things complex shapes. And just have it a little bit more wispy and a little bit more larger shapes would probably help out a lot. But really nice job. Yeah, that's a difficult subject.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun to paint. Okay. All right, Rich. Yeah, this is a cool little scene. Yeah, this is another one with like organizing chaos. That's very, very challenging. And I like the way this is arranged. It's got a cool feel to it. And you got a little guy in there. I didn't notice that before. Yeah, that's a nice little surprise. Yeah, with this one, yeah, I would probably just richen up the color just a little bit more. And I wouldn't go too strong, because I like your harmony that you already have in it. But I like the way you simplified the background. I like that a lot. It just looks like a big bank of trees back there, but it doesn't compete with all of this anatomy in this tree. So this is what I was trying to express before. But I can't remember if it was Patricia that was painting a tree like this. That was her name. But this is what I'm talking about. That anatomy, explaining that anatomy and how the tree is. What's that?
That was me.
Yeah. Yeah. So does that make sense? So really nice job. I like it. Yeah. I'd probably just make these a little bit larger shapes on this land area where it's not too broken up. Yeah. And I'm not even sure if you even need that right there too. I'll probably even soften that one up. Keep it in there, but you could just kind of soften it up a little bit. But it's a cool little piece. Yeah, nice job, Rich.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think I remember where that is. Okay. Virginia?
Yes, I'm here.
This is a cool, complicated little piece too. Okay, so let's see, how would I arrange that? Okay, so with this particular scene right here, I would probably make this a stronger group right over in here, where it's not too broken up. I like how you simplified it. I mean, I'm not even sure if that's even necessary right in there. Just keep it simple. So all the attention's down in here.
Okay.
This guy may be competing with these people here for attention. So I would probably drop this guy out if I were to go in and redo anything, and then play up these people here. And because I think you just have too many things that are important. And then if you were to do that, I'd probably move my shadow just a touch to where this little dog was crossing over it a little bit.
Great.
And,
yeah, that's great. I put the person and I just thought it was so empty. And so only the two people were there in the beginning. And then, but yeah, you're right. I think get rid of the dog and the guy and then cross over. And a big thing that I would really love you to talk about is how to make the shadows in a bright daylight dark enough, but not looking the way mine do.
Well, it's relative based on what I'd like to do. I have to establish the key in my paintings. I have to establish my lightest light and darkest dark in the scene that I'm looking at, because I need to have something to relate to, and so like whenever I'm looking at my darkest darks within a scene, I'm always comparing it to my shadows to make sure my shadows don't get too dark and heavy. So obviously this is a warm sunny day. Your shadows are going to be a lot cooler on a day like that. In relationship, they're not going to be strong chroma, violet or blue or anything like that. But you want to constantly compare back and forth to your extremes in the painting, like your strongest color, your lightest light, and your darkest dark. That's critical for me to make any sense out of what I'm looking at. but it's all relative too, you know, because a lot of times I might mention like this is a really strong chromatic color, but it's in relationship to whatever, you know, the strongest color is within the scene. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. But I still don't really understand. Say, for example, the two people, their shadows, do they look good? Or is it the wrong color for the shadow?
It's a little dark. They're a little dark. And this one and this one. And this is not too shabby. And you kind of, you soften the edges as it gets farther away from the figure. That looks good.
Okay, thank you.
You just don't want to look, you don't want to lose the local color of the surface that it's casting a shadow on.
Mm.
So even though it's cooler, it's relatively cooler than the light of the ground, but it's still going to have a little bit of that ground color in it. So, but these look, I like the way these shadows look right here. These are a little heavy. These are a little dark. And then whenever we're painting from photographs, we have to know that you know, the camera is exposing for the light and the shadow, and sometimes it exposes too much for the light, and the shadows darken up so much, and we got to be cautious about that. So the more we paint from life outside, we'll memorize that stuff as we're painting. You won't even realize it. You'll just know what looks accurate, and whenever you're looking at a photograph, you'll know what to change, you know. So does that make sense, Virginia?
Yes, thank you very much. So helpful.
Okay, it is challenging to do it through the video. It's easier just to say, hey, look at this, and you know, when you're right there. So I understand the limitations of it, but I hope I explained it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So Scott, you're down to about 2.5 minutes for each.
Wow, man, this is pressure.
I know. Sorry.
Okay.
You know, questions and things we can answer at the end.
Okay. Okay, Joanne. Yeah, I like this piece.
There's a reference.
Yeah, I like the simplicity. Yeah, I like the simplicity of it too.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think what I'd probably do is just kind of darken the value of this. You see that value that's right there, and the roof?
Yes.
Bring it down a little bit, but then just kind of soften the edge as it gets close to the edge over here on the canvas. And but you want the value to be a little darker than the sky, even though there is some reflections, I'm sure. But in this particular, it looks like an overcast scene, so I would darken this. Even these values in here are darker than that. So, oops. I would darken that whole value over there, but just make sure the edges on over towards the side of the canvas that doesn't get too sharp.
Okay.
And with this green right in here, I'd probably just take a little bit of red and add it into the green where it still looks green, but it's a little bit grayer green. And that would kind of keep the harmony going, that overcast kind of feeling in your piece. But I like that barn. Everything looks good right in here. And just watch that pinkish color right in here. I'd probably just kind of neutralize that a little bit more too, to where you don't want it to confuse the viewer. But it's a nice little piece.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, hey, one more thing. You see how this is kind of like a little arc right there? You kind of broke it up a little bit. Just make it a little bit more interesting, and maybe even bring it up just a little bit higher.
Okay.
And just make it a little bit of interesting contour, and overlap that edge of the barn a little bit with a branch and some foliage, and that would push that barn back into the distance a little bit more.
Oh, great idea. Thank you.
That might work.
Okay.
All right. Good job.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, Tamara. I love that little statue.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I used to have one of those in my yard, and it broke in a move.
Oh.
But, yeah, I know. It was a
I
bummer.
brought this one from Singapore. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it looks
good.
like from over there. But but I like it. It's got a good little feel to it. A simple feel to it, with the simple shapes, leaving these shapes more simple in the behind there. And I'd probably just kind of make these trees a little bit more interesting, and even a larger shape over in here, to where it kind of like frames this whole little area around the statue. So yeah, I would just probably just make this more of a larger shape of the tree, bring some more anatomy to it, just simplify the tree to where that's all kind of blocked out up there, where it'll pull the eye back down here. And then just like you're making a larger shape in here in the foreground, just kind of connect it all, and then it'll just frame this area really beautifully. Yeah, that'd be very cool. And then probably bring that up a little bit, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, and then get back into your drawing, into the statue. And it doesn't have to be really super duper detailed, but just delineate some more smaller shapes right in here, and right in the hands, and soften up some of the edges, and just like as you did here. This is great. And soften some right back in there. So it's just kind of slowing our observations down with our edge control when you get into things like this. But just changing those trees over there just will help support this. Just don't make it too busy up in there, and that will bring the eye back down into here where you want it to be. And just make sure that horizon line, make sure that's just straight across, where it's not leaning too much. And that'd be about it. Yeah, good job.
Thanks.
Oh man, I didn't even look at that. Yeah, you could just group these trees a little bit more. You can even find a different kind of a grouping of trees to make them, but this is a lot of cool anatomy in here. Yeah, there's lots you could do with it. All right, Lynette. This is a cool scene.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, good job.
I started this plein air in Florida, and then I went back and visited it this week.
Yeah.
In my studio.
Yeah, I like the feel of it. Yeah, I like the feel of this a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, these boat scenes are challenging, but that's one of the reasons why I like painting them so much, because it just it's a constant challenge on composition, and it's pretty infinite. But but yeah, you did a good job in here. And yeah, so what I would do in here, I'd probably just darken all this right in here, to where this more, because this already feels like the center of interest to me, right in this area.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you darken that a little bit more, as it kind of gradates back to a little bit darker as your reference, you see how that kind of gradates back, and just do a lot of squinting down to kind of simplify all these shapes. And with this, obviously you have to get the drawing accurate to make sure that the boat looks accurately drawn. But then there's other spots in these areas to where you can design them to make it work for your painting too. Just got to make sure the boat looks accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, but because there's sometimes I fudge some stuff just to make it enhance an area. I may darken it more than it really is, or strengthen the color, or neutralize the color more than it really is, just to play up what's most important to me in the painting.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then even like, see the trees in the background?
Yeah.
You could even pull them a lot higher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So these are like what's called a tangent. Like whenever like a line in the background is like lining up, like a shape is lining up with the edge of something that's in the foreground, and it'll make the background come too far forward whenever you have that. So you want things to overlap and not line up right on alignment like that.
Okay.
So, yeah, so just kind of bring it up a little bit like that, and just kind of have that one come up, and I think that would help. I mean, it looks good.
Okay.
Good. I like all the reflections. Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay. That looks like,
There's
like it's full speed. Lori, what's that?
there's a reference.
Okay. Very cool, Lori.
Thank you.
Yeah, very cool. Okay. Okay, see how these clouds are right up in here?
Mm-hmm.
I would even move those clouds down farther. And we just have to kind of like with scenes like this, I have to decide on what's most important to me whenever I'm going to go paint this scene. It's like, what am I going to play up? What am I going to tell the story about? Whether it's going to be this pot, or, you know, as these trees this light side of these trees kind of lead down into the pot, it's the shadow pattern and whatnot. And like with these clouds aren't as necessary. It's great to have them there too, but you can downplay them a little bit and bring them down into the scene a little bit more. And that way they don't feel as heavy as the this area right up in here.
Okay.
So yeah, I would probably just bring them down a little bit and just soften up the edges to where they're not going to be competing with the strength of the edges in these trees. And then really play up that area with the pot. Because this is a center of interest right in here with that thing, and with that strong color that's right there as well. It's kind of nice. But just watch that when you're drawing it in, you might not even need to have that little trunk right there. It still looks believable just having that trunk where it is, and just because it's so close to that pot, it's a little tangent right there.
Yeah.
So I'd move the pot if you want to keep that in there, because it's nice to have 3 things instead of even numbers, and just move the pot over a little bit in your painting. You know, you could do that too. But just kind of design the shadow pattern that you have in here in the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Design it, and to where it will support what you got going on down here. But
thank you.
Nice little painting though. Just
Thanks
watch,
very much.
yeah, and just watch that the shadows don't get too heavy, dark with the value wise, and you just want to keep a lot of air in your shadows. Like when I say keep a lot of air in your shadows, just don't let the values get too dark. You want to still make them feel like they're in shadow, but have your values in a good relationship to your lightest lights and your darkest dark, to where you don't want them to get too close to your darkest dark.
So the shadow is too dark to the rest of the tree darkness, right?
It feels a little heavy in
Okay.
here. And a lot of times, you know, I think I mentioned it in the last time, you know, like when you make like a little hole with your hand like this, where you have one of those little color isolators with a little hole in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't compare it to the side of the color isolator. That doesn't work. You have to just look through the hole, and I'll look at the shadow, and then I'll put it over in the darkest dark. Go back to the shadow, darkest dark, and I go up to my lightest light, and go back down to the shadow again. Keep doing that till it triggers in your brain that shadow's a lot lighter than it looks.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so that helps.
Yeah.
But nice job.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Maureen. This is a nice little high key piece.
Hi.
Yeah, hi Maureen.
Hi.
Yeah, I like the feel of it. It's a nice high key painting.
High key, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, all the values are more of a higher key, so you know it's more of in a value range where it's not in the darker darks range on the values.
What?
What's that?
Life. I don't know why it turned out. And I was using a lot of paints that turned out to be kind of transparent, and I was thinking they weren't really photographing that well, and I should avoid transparent paint or something. It's not that real painting isn't that light.
Yeah.
Well, like a reference.
Well, you know the Impressionists painted how they felt about a scene, and you know if it feels that way to you, go with it. It looks good to me. I mean, I'm looking at your little reference right here, and I can see what you're seeing, and this doesn't bother me that much. I would just kind of group it into larger shapes, and then actually just kind of swing these red flowers into, like, overlap this red flower over here, kind of tie them into like a little arc like this. And you could even impressionistically put some little, not as strong as this, of course, but introduce a little bit of red tones mixed with that green to create a little bit of warmth in some little spots in here. And you can do it impressionistically, because this definitely, it feels impressionistic to me.
Right.
Like, and then just watch like the drawing in this little area, just change that contour to make it a little bit more interesting, you know?
Okay.
Kind of spot a little bit of red over in here and just kind of break it up, but just kind of, you can still go with the impressionistic feeling of it, you know? It's got a nice feel.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Good job, Marie.
Thank you.
Okay. Bobby, this is a cool little study here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was very quick because it was a windy day on the beach.
Oh yeah. The wind is my nemesis outside. I can paint in anything, but the wind drives me bananas.
I wanted to hear what you had to say to help this.
Yeah, well, this right in here, I mean, I like the freshness of it. You know, with a minimal amount of strokes and shapes, you gave the good representation of the feeling of the light. You know, I like it. But I would just design the shadows a little bit better right in here. Take them right off the canvas, and that way it'll just anchor it right down in here, and just delineate the shapes around this grouping of trees in this area maybe, and where that brush comes up, and just making that shape a little bit larger as it comes off, and then doing that right in there. A lot of these other areas that are simply blocked in, it depends on what you do here, depends on how much you want to put into that. It might be fine just the way it is. I'd fix that for sure. Just smush that into the canvas.
What? I can't see the pointer.
You see my pointer?
Oh yeah, I just noticed that on the photo.
Yeah, if it's still wet, I would just take your finger and just go, and just smear it all in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just kind of take that shadow of that tree right off the side of it.
Do you think I should have some of the tree at a different height on the left there, like
like right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could make that go down a little bit further.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't really bother me. It's so loosely painted, and it's got a lot of expression in it. That doesn't even bother me. I would just design that shadow pattern in there a little bit more, and put a little bit more detail in this little area right here, and it looks pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's got a good feeling to it.
It was fun.
Yeah. If you did a lot of these, like really quick block in starts like this, I would just do a ton of them, because this right here is the key foundation to what you're going to be putting on top. If it doesn't work in this stage, no amount of detail that you put on top of it's going to help it. So,
is it working at this stage?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it looks great.
All right, thanks. Those are good tips.
Yeah, so I mean, just do a ton of these little quick starts for everybody.
Yeah.
You do a lot of these quick starts, even in watercolor too. And just get that initial pop of the light right in the initial block in, and just keep doing that till it becomes, like a habit, when you can get that initial block in, and it looks just like the feeling of the light that's hitting what you're looking at out there. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's really helpful. Thank you, Scott.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you, Bobby. Thanks. Alvino?
Junior.
What?
Hello.
Junior.
His name's Junior?
Yeah.
Okay, Junior. Yeah, nice piece.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, where was this?
That was by Grant Park.
Oh, okay. Yeah, nice job on that. Nice job on the drawing in here.
Yeah, I took away the tree. I didn't like the tree.
Did you took the tree out already?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, heck, from this, from what I'm looking at right now, I probably just designed that tree just back here to kind of support the weight of this statue here. And
actually, I put some reds and purples on that side.
On this side?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a good idea to take the tree out.
Yeah.
And you could make it have another tree back in the back coming in there like that.
Yeah.
And have it come above the hand right in here, and then up around this side. But I like
for directional.
Yeah, directional lines that would help. And I like that you kept that building a lot more simplified back there, because it keeps it in the distance with the detail that you put in the statue here. And softening up these edges in the bottom part, that really help out too. But yeah, it just needs more work in that tree, but don't put too much work into it to where it competes with this.
No, it's actually gone.
Okay, which is gone?
The tree.
Oh yeah, I know that tree, but the trees that the tree grouping.
Oh yeah, it'll be softer. They'll be softer.
Yeah, it'll be softer and less detailed. I mean, you got less detailed back in here. That's totally fine. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a cool arrangement too. But it's just think about the weight, because this is a lot of weight right here. You have to balance it out with another shape over here somehow.
Yeah, that's what was initially that tree there for. But then I didn't like the branches.
Yeah, and it's
something else
around the edge. Yeah.
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 You've got 10 paintings in 25 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, man.
No problem.
Okay. 10 paintings in 25 minutes. Okay. Kirsten, yeah, I like this. This is a cool little block in too. Yeah, so this is like that feeling I was saying, like getting the initial block in, feeling like the effect of light of what we're seeing from life. And and here, with the shapes back in here, you see these little strokes back in here? You don't even need them. You can just paint them with one large brush and just simplify that whole area back in the back. And then with the anatomy of this tree, that's when I'd really slow down and draw out and design how those trees are going to work. This tree's already a little bit too close to the edge of the canvas here. I'd probably bring it in a little bit more. So I would just move it around to make it work for your painting. And I'm not sure, is there a reference to this? No.
No.
If that's the building, I'm not sure. Yeah, it looks like that's the edge of the building. Like if this is an area that's right here, that would just even bring down that tone back behind it to where it just doesn't, that light value doesn't meet the shadow of that tree and doesn't carry on behind that tree. If that makes sense. What's that? What'd you say? Okay. All right. Make this larger shape over in here on the left side. That would help out a lot too. But good job, Kirsten. Okay, Robin. Okay, so that's the photo reference. Okay. All right. Okay, what I'm seeing here, Robin, is just making, like I've mentioned before, it's making larger shapes up in here to support this area that you have right in here. And so whenever you're initially blocking in the painting, start with your largest brushes and paint very, very large shapes. Just think like three or four large shapes in the initial block in. You don't want it to be broken up too much. You see how this is getting a little bit too broken up?
Yes.
Yeah, you want to have a large shape to support this area. So we have to decide, like right away, like what's the most important part of the painting for us, and even write yourself a note so we don't get distracted, because I have to do that with myself a lot, because especially when something that's complicated, you want to stay on course. So just write yourself a note saying, I'm gonna stay right in this area with the little fish, koi fish, and play up the temperature, play up my edge control, sharpen some edges right in this little area, and make sure all these supporting large shapes support the smaller shapes that I have in my center of interest.
Yeah, I got lost in the trees there.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to do. I mean, look how complicated it can be. That's why it's good for us, even when we're looking at a photograph or painting from a photograph. You squint your eyes, or even take it into Photoshop, and you can blur out the whole painting, and just make it all blurry, and then you will see what you can. I mean, see how to design the shapes. What you're seeing from the photograph, whenever it has all the detail in it. A lot of times I've done this with students in the past, where I'll give them something to paint from a photo, but the photo will be completely posterized and blurry, and there's no detail in it. And so they block the painting in based off of those decisions, and then you slowly give them things, the same photograph with more and more detail in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of a neat kind of exercise to kind of train your mind on how to see initially, so because a lot of times whenever we look at a scene like this, we see nothing but detail, and we have to train our minds to see large masses and paint those first, and then start deciding where our smaller shapes are going to be. But back in here with these fish, I would go back into your painting and really start spending a lot more time drawing those things out, a little bit more specific. Draw out the alignments of things with the rock, and all, and a little bit more drawing with your with the way the branches come over. I probably break those over the top of that alignment right there.
Mm-hmm.
Just so it's a little bit more interest, and it brings it right back down to the center of interest.
Okay.
There's a lot of different ways you can handle this. So,
yep.
But good job, Robin.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So there's a bunch of reference and duplicates here. So, but there is a reference. There's the reference.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, guys, here's another thing I'm going to suggest. Whenever we're going out to paint, it's a really good idea to especially in the initial stages of our development, to paint in the early morning or the later afternoon, evening, and try to stay away from midday, unless unless you have a lot of cool scene at a market where you have the sun hitting the tops of tarps and things like that. But the midday has a lot of flat light, and so it makes it harder to pull out the light shadow relationships. So, and a lot of times you get more beautiful patterns in the mornings and in the evenings. And so
actually, the photograph was taken after I painted it. I was painting in the morning, and I didn't have my camera, so I went back just to kind of photograph the location.
Yeah, for the details and stuff.
Well, I didn't have any more details left, but it was just so I'd know where I painted them, for the future.
Okay, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I know. It's But this was done in the morning. The light's different.
Yeah, this looks cool. Yeah, I like all this. I mean, I would probably just make this a larger shape over in here. You see how you feel the weight on this side?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would probably just bring a little bit more weight on this side over here.
Okay.
And just kind of make that shoreline just a little. I'd make it just a little more simplified over on this side, where it's not so broken up.
Yeah, it was an incredibly windy day, and I was standing on rocks, so all of this was just I was just trying, on adrenaline.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I know how that is. I know how that is, but it's got the right feel to it. It's got a cool feel. Yeah, I like all this in here. it feels like a windy day. Now, is that birds or what is this area?
Yeah, there are a lot of gulls around there. Yeah.
Okay.
It might be a little too bright, I think, or on there.
No, I probably just draw them out a little bit more to where where they look more like the gulls.
Mhm.
And I'd probably take all those little guys out and you probably just put one over here or something.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can take some of those out and maybe make like one up in here even, you know.
Okay.
Or just arrange a pattern of the clouds up in here,
Mhm.
but real subtle. I'd probably just make it real subtle. And you can bring some of these a little bit higher over the top, and I'd push that back a little bit more. And I'd probably cool off that tree area.
Okay.
I'd probably cool that off to where it doesn't compete, and lighten the value a touch too, so where it doesn't compete with the values that are in the foreground.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would help a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, nice job. Okay. All right, Kim. Yeah, this is that scene with the arrows. What's that?
Yes, from Errol's painting.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I know that place well. Yeah, this all this needs is just enhanced with the shadow pattern. Like make that shadow or that light pattern coming around a little bit larger.
Yeah.
Sorry, my dog is did you hear that? Okay, so make that light pattern a little bit stronger in here, and just the shadow pattern. I don't even think you need to be broken up at all in here. You just make that all one shape, an interesting shape in here. Doesn't need to have too many sky holes coming in. And like as this comes in right over in here, I'd probably just bring it back. Yeah, it doesn't need much. And probably just bring up some lights on the top of this tree.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit. And just change up that contour to where it's not so straight. And I'd probably even put just a little bit more of that tree right there, that shape.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably just break in a smaller one right over in here a little bit more. So it looks like you're really underneath the canopy.
Okay.
And it gets it a little bit away from this little area alignment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so just bring it up right in there, I think would help a little bit. But especially separating the light side of that tree with the background of the skyline,
Mm-hmm.
that would help, because this whole value in here, I know that there's some glare on that, so I may not be seeing it accurately, but just from the photograph, this is blending in a little bit too much.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you notice how dark the Hancock is in relationship to the shadow in that tree, it may be a little bit too dark. But a lot of times, whenever we're observing like a dark object that's surrounded by a lot of light value, our minds think it's a lot darker than it really is. Mm-hmm. So that's why I like to isolate things and compare it, and it takes me out of my brain trying to trick me. So.
Okay.
Scott, yeah, 6 more in 14 minutes.
What's that?
6 more, 14 minutes.
Okay. All right. Nice job, Kim.
Thank you.
Skip it. Yep. Skip it.
Oh, okay. There you go. Oh, that's cool. Andrea?
Keep going.
Keep going?
I mean, just talk. I would.
No,
you're fine.
Hello.
Is she here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yeah. This feels like kind of Russian impressionistic-y kind of feeling. I like it. It's got a cool feel. And again, I would just with a painting like this, I like the impressionism of it. It's just still group in your larger masses, and to where and also with the chroma, you just don't want it to get too strong of chroma in the background. These were distant trees, right?
Yes and no. It's hard to distinguish off a photograph on darker kind of values, and that's where, the subject matter could be a dare.
Yeah. So just to make sure that this doesn't seem like it's all on the same plane.
Okay.
With chroma, I would probably chill out this color in the back a little bit more, where it's a little bit neutralized, and maybe even lighten some a little bit and kind of change that direction of the drawing on that tree, where it's kind of coming back in here a little bit. And that way it'll make it feel like it's receding a lot more, because because the color feels like it's on the same plane here. You see what I mean?
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that would help take it back there. And then probably just change up this alignment on the line on the cloud.
It almost parallels the tree line.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, and we just kind of bring that up a little bit more. And it's got a cool feeling to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice job. Okay. All right. This is a cool, another impressionistic-y looking one. Yelena? Is Yelena here? Okay. So this has a lot of good impressionistic qualities to it. And with this one, what I would do is I would really go back over the top of this and adjust your drawing. You can still keep the impressionistic feeling of it without going too bananas with your drawing and your detail. But I would just go in and just does she have a photo reference? Okay, see this area is here on the shoreline. I would soften those up on hers a little bit more. We're kind of bring it out there a little bit more, because it feels like I'm in a different location than where we are here. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So so bring that shoreline out just a little bit more, and just kind of like pay attention how's the waterfalls in here. And let's see. Sorry guys, I'm going back and forth so much. But bringing that the waterfalls over here like that, just kind of bring just a little bit more over here, because it's got some cool vibes to it, where the color kind of vibrates. But just bring some of those trees up there across. I wish we could get rid of this thing. I don't know how you do that. But have the tree come up over the corner over there, and kind of have more of an interesting contour over in here, trying to bring that tree up in there. Because you want to play up this little area right here, I'm assuming, for sure. And probably just make just larger shapes with your water, where it's not so broken up right here. And that would, if you make some shapes in here, larger shapes, it would help make your smaller shapes that you have with all this broken color, it would make it appear stronger. So I hope that makes sense, Yelena.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Am I going the wrong direction?
Nope, that's the actual, so that's nope, we've done that one, right? Keep
Yeah.
going left.
We did that.
There we go. This is actually Christina's.
Oh, Christina's?
Yep.
Oh, cool. Is Christina here?
I'm here. Hi, Scott.
Hey, how you doing, Christina?
I'm good, thanks.
Hey,
Thanks
good to
for
see
the
you.
critique.
Oh my God. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Are you making this for the boys?
Well, I set up this still life for them to paint. And then they were like, Mom, how come you're not doing the painting? So we didn't do it. The boys did it one day, and then I did it a different day. But yes, I was inspired by a still life for them.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, nice job. Yeah, Christina, all I would do here is just probably just simplify your drawing here, you know, in the cup of milk, and where you have all your broken up edges here. I would probably straighten up some edges here and there, and blow out you're blowing out some of the edges here. That's just nice, and keeping that sharp edge there. That's great. And I would go back into your cylinders, into the cup and into the peanut butter jar. I would probably strengthen up some of the edges around in here to where it feels round. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And bring some reflected light back on the back side of this, And I know in a glass of milk it's harder, but there, you know, there's going to be, you know, more delineated shadow pattern.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd watch that the yellow that's coming into here doesn't get too jumpy.
Okay.
And probably simplify that a little bit more, because you got a lot of nice broken color work in here. I would just simplify that cup.
Okay. I struggled with the glass of milk the most.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to paint, but it's a great thing to train on too. And just setting up a glass of milk with some onions behind it, or anything that's white and white on white, it trains your eye to see temperature sensitivities and value sensitivities in a very close range. So yeah, I highly recommend that. But and also with all the shapes that you got in here, I would just probably simplify your background a lot more, and I would probably reverse it in a way to where, you know, with the lights coming this direction, I'd make it darker on this side and maybe a little bit lighter on that side, but to keep that cast shadow there.
Okay.
And it'll make the light appear brighter.
Right. Oh, I see. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, because you have it here.
Yeah.
And it got lightened right here.
Yeah.
So then it would make that really pop out.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. But nice job, Christina.
Thanks. Thank you.
Good to see you.
You too.
Okay, thanks. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Yeah, you see what I mean? Well, like having that behind there, and that's just all in the setup, you know?
Yeah.
So that would make that, even with the way it is right now,
it works better.
Yeah. And then whenever you're painting like writing on stuff, like even like a sign and a street sign, I have to draw it in, but scrape it down and repaint it, and scrape it down and repaint it. But in a lot of times, Mr. Krajewski taught this to us in art school. Like whenever you're painting letters, a lot of times I will figure out where my spacing goes, where it is, and I'll find the center point. And then I will count how many spaces and how many letters there are. And then I will take the center of that letter and go that way and go that way. And that way I don't wind up getting larger or smaller. I stay within my range. Start from the center and work out with letters. So.
Okay, great.
Little tidbit.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Last one.
All right, Jim.
And there is a reference.
Oh, reference. Okay. Oh, nice. Okay. Okay. All right. What I'm seeing here, Jim, you got a nice little painting though. I like the way it feels. And it's a complex scene. And my initial feeling whenever I look at it, I look at the reference photo, is this is a massively strong shape right here that I would really play up on big time, right in my initial block in. And everything is going to be weighted off of this. And so this could all be darker right in here. And a lot of times you want to blend a lot of these colors together in the initial block in to make it one large shape, and then pull those colors of the train out of that. And I wipe out a little bit and put in more of like that kind of gray, that gray violet-y color. But you don't want to have it too separate. You want it to have it harmonize. That looks good though. I like the way that looks. But this stuff just, all the metal work here is just a little bit too light. I'd probably darken a lot of that to where it feels like it's in shadow underneath there. And then in turn, with all this weight that's over here, I would balance it out with a little bit darker value as up in here as well. Not too dark, obviously. You don't want it to compete with any of these values over in here, but you want to have it you want to have the weight feel balanced, and bring it all the way back down into here as well, to where you're creating that shape in there. And then you break that shape up in the distance with all the, the cars and the, the little things, but don't break it up too much. You could actually just simplify a lot of this stuff. But it's a nice piece. And also with white trucks, wait, let me go back to the, like with white trucks, whenever you compare the white of that truck, and if you were to isolate it and then isolate the sky, it is a lot darker than you think. So that's the thing that I like to pay close attention to. Every time I look at a white object, I always triple check it to make sure that I am putting that value of that white object in proper value relationships based on my lightest light and darkest dark, on how I keyed my painting. So always be on the lookout for white objects in your scene and make sure they're in proper relationship to everything else. But you did a nice job. I would just weight this thing a little bit more darker up there and darken up that white a little bit more and just kind of get this a little heavier. But good job. Good job, Jen.
So Scott, it is 2:29. Absolutely perfect ending here.
Really?
Yep, absolutely.
Wow.
You came down to the minute. It's perfect.
Wow, you're a slave driver.
I know, right? So Scott, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Scott.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
You guys did an awesome
Thank you
job.
so much, Scott.
Scott.
Awesome.
Very inspiring, guys.
Thank you.
So
Thank
helpful.
you. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. We'll do it.
You guys, hold on one second.
Thank you.
Next week, please mute yourself for a second. Next week, DK is going to be on with us. DK Palachek, who last week, Christina is coming in. Brian Sindler is the following week. He's going to be dealing with color and lots of things. Also, a couple of really quick things. Please make sure you get your size, and please mute yourselves. Location, size, and the medium would be really great to have in here. Please put in your reference photos, square them up and edit them well. And also, I had a conversation this week with Joe Gierzak. He was telling me that Blick is starting layoffs and furloughs. So support your local art stores and get your things, any kind of art from them. But we're hoping he could stay on working with them. So from now on, hopefully we can support our artists in any way too. So I just wanted to kind of mention that it's a good time to do any ordering of any art materials if you need. Anyway, I will see everyone next week. Please do the evaluation and tell me anything else that you would like. Okay, I just unmuted you, and if you have any other questions.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Scott. Good to see you.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, I don't know how to work. Hey, I don't know how to work this chat thing. It comes off to the side. But,
Yeah, just run it.
Everybody, it was a great
You
session.
can click on it and you'll see the chats.
Yeah, so yeah, you can just use it that way, just by clicking on it. And I've been watching them all the time, so to bring in any questions. All right, you guys, see you later.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.